There's Amy. Amy, I think I did it.
All right, good job.
Very good. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all. Mike, welcome to our committee. Um, as folks join, we've got Bobby, Ricardo, Junior, Jamie, I think, stepping in for Michael today. Hi, Jamie, and Karen from our committee. I presume you know most of these folks, but let's do an around the horn introduction for Mike, who is our newest committee member. So I'll begin and then I'll call on Amy and then I'll just keep calling on people if that's okay. All right. So first things first, Mike, nice to meet you. My name is Nathan Wildfire. I wrote you an intro note last week. I work for the Missing Middle Housing Fund, which is a statewide nonprofit that your city, Boardman, has hired to bring support to this housing advisory committee and to all things housing in Boardman. This committee was formed a bit more than a year ago now, with the purpose of giving advice to the city council on big decisions and policy around housing. While that is your main charge, you are also tasked with overseeing a $1 million housing fund that Boardman has that came from the CREZ. Most of those dollars have not been spent yet, but a few dollars have been. It's one of the ways that you pay us. It is what paid for installing uh, digitized zoning for Boardman through a program called Urban Form. Those dollars have been spent to make the city of Boardman one of the first pilot cities for the state's moderate income revolving loan fund. That's a new fund that the state is standing up. And it also pays Gary Reddick, who's on the call there. Gary, wave at everybody from Iris Design, who is overseeing the Columbia View Master Plan, which we'll talk a bunch about today. So it's my role to sort of organize these meetings and keep us on track, but I am not a committee member. I'm your hired human. Amy and Gary, also on the call, are hired by the city to do different things. Everybody else is a committee member. So I'm going to send it over to Amy quick, and then we'll introduce Gary. We'll get us non-committee members out of the way first, and then we'll do a little committee member intro or reintroduction because, Mike, I have a feeling you know a bunch of these folks. Amy?
Yeah, hi everyone. Mike, nice to meet you. I'm Amy Snyder. I lead marketing and communications for the Missing Middle Housing Fund. I've been working with Nate and our colleagues here for 3.5 years now, and specifically with this Boardman group for several of those years. And it's been a wonderful ride. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Amy. Gary, want to do a little 30-second intro? You're going to get to talk a lot more later.
Yeah, it's Gary Reddick, architect and planner. I'm a consultant to Missing Middle Housing Fund, and I've been working for several months now on the scope of work to produce housing schemes and options and combine that with retail to with the hope of eventually making a really cool place in Boardman, and I'll describe that in a little bit.
Thanks, Gary. Next, I want to just have the various committee members introduce themselves. Uh, Junior, we'll start with you because I bet you're the most familiar to Mike, but I don't actually know that. But
Yep.
maybe do a little bit about who you are, since you're very well known to Mike. It should be easy. Who you are and why you're on this committee.
So I am the public works director for the city of Boardman. Not why I'm on the committee, though. I'm on the committee because I was here as a county commissioner back when it first started. And when I came to work for the city, I just stayed on board. So I've been.
Junior, why do you care about housing? I think is what I mean by why are you on this committee?
Oh, so yeah. I've lived here since 1980, watched the town grow from, 1,250 people to the 7,000 that are here now. Would like to have some thought and process that helps us build and and move in the right direction. I really appreciate Gary's work. Really nice ideas for the Columbia View. So, and as a city public works director, I do get to be involved in the infrastructure side of it. So, doing that project on Columbia View has been kind of a two-sided thing for me, and I've enjoyed doing it.
Thanks, Junior. Ricardo, let's go to you.
Hey, Ricardo Rosales, branch manager here at the Banner Bank. I'm just part of the committee because I just want to help out in growing this community, making it look nice for the kind of the next generation, kind of have that kind of perspective of it. So I just want to help however I can.
Thank you, Ricardo. Appreciate it. Karen?
Yes, I'm on because I'm a city council member and am interested in new housing for people that want to live in Boardman.
Thanks, Karen. Bobby?
Bobby Barnes, maintenance manager for the Portmore Warehouse. I've been a resident of Boardman for a little over 10 years now and got kids. And I want to try to help make Boardman a place where they would want to grow up and stay. So it's my goals.
Thanks, Bobby. Jamie?
Jamie Stewart. I'm filling in for Michael Graham today, but we're here to have housing for our workforce and make Boardman a great community.
Thanks, Jamie. Mike, you can go a little longer if you want. Who are you? What's your role with the city? Why do you care about housing? Why did you accept the nomination to be on this committee?
Okay, thank you. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mike Hughes. I'm on city council. For those that do know me, good morning. So, uh, besides being a city council person, I'm also the fire chief for Boardman. So, I was super happy when I was able to get on this committee because obviously, my first priority is going to be about public safety, uh, and then access to whatever facilities, make sure the building construction, everything, public safety wise for both fire and police and EMS. So I'm excited about being on this committee from that point of view.
Thank you, Mike. One second, I'm actually just getting out a notebook here. I know we keep notes digitally, but it helps my brain if I actually am writing things down. Okay. Well, we appreciate you being here. Today we have three main things on the agenda. The first thing is that our meeting last month, our June meeting, we invited developers and landowners and folks who have built in Boardman before to give the city direct feedback via this committee. What's helpful? What's a pain in the butt? What kinds of changes would you like to see maybe in process and policy? This was the second of two meetings, our May meeting, we called Developer 101. We brought in a single developer from Columbia Gorge Capital who's never done anything in Boardman and might not ever do anything in Boardman to sort of just quiz us and have us quiz him about why developers do what they do. And it was meant to help inform and sort of give some training and education to our committee members about the what represents risk in development, why developers choose to do different projects, why they choose to work in different jurisdictions, how they raise money, etc. Mike, if you want, there's notes from that meeting, but you can also feel free to check in with me or any of the committee members to get you up to speed on that. The very next month, which was last month, June, we invited a whole bunch of different folks to essentially do what I said earlier, tell us what works, what doesn't, that kind of thing. And what I want to do is I want to show you the results of that, which you received via email as well. So up the top, these are the 12 different folks that were there. We had a few committee members there as well. And basically what we did was we broke it down into ways the city could improve, and then things that the city's doing really well. You can feel free to take a look at this. Again, this is also in your email. Just give you all a quick chance to just scan this. This is what folks said. And as we keep going down, you'll start to see ways that the city is helpful. There's a lot less of those. But as you might imagine, folks who are there with a chance to give the city feedback generally focus on things they would like to improve. And then what we did was we broke that down into 3 core recommendations. The overwhelming one that came up over and over again is, how is a project tracked through the city processes, right? So this is permitting. This is actually who's reviewing the project at what time. There was an overwhelming sense that this was unclear and that this created delays, created a lot of or lack of transparency. Folks were very unclear on who was in charge of a given project at any given time within the city, and this caused a lot of frustration. What we recommend as your housing consultant is that we actually go off and look at some different software solutions. We brought this to Brandon and the rest of the city team, who said, look, it's not really practical for us to have on board a person that is the steward of all of these processes all at once. We're always going to have these developers and development projects go through different places, whether that's planning, building permits, fire safety, Mike, whether that's going through engineering with Junior. Every single bit of this, they're going through different processes. And so what we want to do is take a look at how other cities of your size deal with this and make some recommendations that might be technological solutions that would be far cheaper than bringing on an FTE or 3. We know that there's a bunch of software solutions out there that are getting high marks. We also know there's a bunch that aren't. So our recommendation, our core recommendation, is to go do some research and figure out what the options are that could improve the customer service for your city as people are moving projects through your processes. The second overwhelming one, and there's really only 2 overwhelming ones, number 1 and 2 on your screen, was consider changing lot size requirements and increasing the allowable density on certain lots for certain types of housing. This comes up again and again. This is not new to this committee. This is not new to your city. We know that the planning department is already looking at this. So our recommendation is to actually make sure that the processes already in process do include evaluating the different lot size requirements in your city. When we get to Gary's part of this, you're going to see some of those townhouse recommendations and some of the like cottage cluster kind of stuff. They're not actually legal by code in your city. We're going to keep recommending them because it's the right thing to do, but we're going to have to do a code update in order to enable the kinds of housing that this committee wants to see. So that's the second big recommendation. The third one just seemed kind of easy. You as a city charge fees. Sometimes these are things like a system development charge or things like a infrastructure charge. And it's hard to forecast upfront what those fees would be for a developer, which helps them actually assemble the financing and measure risk, right? So we're going to take a look at that Medford model and see if that's something that your city could implement as well. So those are the big 3 takeaways from our developer feedback session. I'm going to pause here and ask our committee members who were there. So I think that's Bobby and Junior. And I think maybe Ricardo, you were there. What you think of these 3 and whether you think something's missing or are these the right things that you took away from that meeting as well. Whoever wants to go first, go ahead.
So I'll go first. So we have we have like, it's called Citizen Serve that we do our permitting through, and it's not user friendly enough, I think, to do the whole tracking of a project. So we have We have a couple other options that we're looking into at this point, trying to figure out what the best route is. We will come up with something, I'm sure, that will work. So as far
So,
as the tracking
Junior,
side of it.
do you want do you want me and Amy to participate in you looking at other models?
Well,
Because we've seen a lot.
we already have like three systems that we're working through. I don't know that we want to convolute it with another system at this point until we figure out what we have will work.
That's okay. I guess what I'm offering is our brains and our
Okay.
experience around the state.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be great with through the process that we already have. Like I said, Citizen Serve didn't seem to work very well. We're still struggling to get permitting done easily for the public access side. So we are going to look at that. But yeah, any help we can get, we would probably
Do you do you
take that.
guys have regular meetings that you're working through this, or what's the process?
So I have an asset management tool that may perhaps work, and we have several people training on that. It is capable of going through all the departments, planning, building, public works, and permitting. But it's again, I mean, these anything we use to learn all the different sides of it is going to be a fairly time consuming process. And then getting the public involved is where the real, we need to learn it ourselves before we can get the public involved. So
Okay, so the really what you're talking about is you have a couple systems already up and running,
correct.
and what you're trying to figure out is if one of these systems or a couple in combination do what the number one recommendation here on the screen is.
Correct.
That's what you're trying to ascertain.
Yep. And we are
Okay.
working towards that end right now. So we have people in training right now on the asset management program. We've got people that have been doing Citizen Serve for quite a while, and it seems fairly difficult to get through that process.
All right. So I guess what I'll do is, can I reach out to you offline, Junior, and see if
Absolutely.
there's a good way for us to participate in that?
Sure.
Okay, cool. What other comments from other folks?
Me personally, I just think obviously number one was the huge kind of pain point for everybody that was brought up continuously. So I think that's definitely a big focus. So that's exciting to hear that the city's already working on things. I'd be excited to kind of see what that looks like here in the next couple months, I'm assuming. Um, and 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 I really think number two is definitely another high priority. Me personally, I think that's something that we should definitely look at. The cottage clusters and stuff like that just really seems like a great idea, and I love the direction we were heading. But if we need to make some changes, I think it
Stop.
should definitely be a priority.
Thanks, Ricardo. Bobby or Karen?
I don't have too much of an input on the three that I just don't want to get it. If we go and change code or make any permanent changes, I just don't want to get ourselves into a situation in the future, like with the lot size changing. I can't forecast or see any problems right now, but I'd hate to make a change and have that bite us in the future. And as in like issues with multiple homes on a single lot or things like things in
Gotcha.
that kind of nature there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right to be thoughtful about that. I'll tell you that like you won't be the first city to do this. You'll be like the 80th city to do it in Oregon. So there's lots of
Okay.
models about how we can do this thoughtfully without sort of biting ourselves in the keister later. But it's the right thing to think about. You're spot on. Karen?
I'm just, I just am curious if who all you shared this information with and what their feedback was, because like you say, the people that are working with it probably think they're doing a fairly good job. So I'm sure they'll have input. And I think perhaps I'm happy that we're looking at some different kind of tracking
Yeah.
devices.
I mean, the folks that we talked with last week are listed right there at the top of the screen. We haven't shared this widely yet beyond Brandon and your planners and this committee. That's really all we've shared this with yet. The this committee's function is really to kind of weigh in and say, are these real? Are these the real right things we ought to be pushing the city to do? And if so, we start doing a little bit of work, bring back a very real recommendation to this committee, and then if it requires city council action, this committee brings it to the city council. That's how we've done it so far. Does that make sense, Karen?
Yes, and I think that, like you say, the tracking of a project is really important. So I'm happy with that. And the sizing of lots, I guess if you have a development in a certain area that wants smaller lots, but I don't think we ought to change the code to make everybody have smaller lots. Was
Yeah,
that what you're asking, or am I just getting to vent?
no, that's what people are recommending, but usually cities are a bit more nuanced than allowing smaller lot sizes everywhere. Usually they say there are certain parts of our city that we want smaller lot sizes and other parts where we don't. Usually that's a function of your zoning code and sort of your master plan. Because it's in part it's about preserving a look and feel for certain parts of the city, but other parts of the city that don't really have a look and feel, you're starting from scratch, so to speak.
Right.
So you can be a little bit thoughtful about those things. Hi, Brandon. Looks like we just got Brandon joining us. Mike or Jamie, you did not participate in this conversation. Do you have any initial thoughts or feedback seeing these three recommendations?
My first concern about smaller lot size is going to be access for emergencies, and we have a community here, Unity Loop, which I will personally say is a disaster.
Okay.
How it was built and why it was built is beyond me. But that, nevertheless, I'm going to push back pretty hard on smaller lot sizes if we're going to continue to build communities like we did over at Unity Loop.
Tell us a little bit more about the safety concern with Unity Loop so we all get to know it.
Yeah, so you could pretty much touch home to home by spreading your arms.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about medical emergencies, getting our equipment, a gurney, in those spaces is extremely difficult. My other concern is a fire load. There's no question in my mind if one of those units goes up, we're going to lose a lot of units. So I'm not in favor of stacking homes on top of each other like we did over there. So that's where I'm going to be pushing back
How
pretty
do
good.
dense cities deal with your concern?
I do what?
Dense cities. Like, I grew up in Pittsburgh. You can
Right,
definitely
right.
touch the houses either side. How do they deal with that?
So I would say it was, just off the top of my head would be building materials, what
Okay.
type of materials that they're using. We're talking about manufactured homes over at the Unity, and so we got a heavy fire load that doesn't have a lot of you know fire protection in my mind. So
Mhm.
and we're not Portland, Oregon. We're out in the rural community, so we have a lot more available to keep the standards differently than you do in a dense city, in my
Well, that's a
opinion.
look and feel standard, right? You're talking about fire safety.
Correct. And
Portland's
access.
not inherently less safe because it's dense, theoretically, right?
Correct. But here's the point that I think that needs to be made is that Portland can put 100 firefighters, and
Ah,
what I have is 6.
got it.
Okay, so that's where the issue becomes.
So I'm hearing two big issues that we would have to solve for. It's the firefighting capacity and it's the building materials.
Correct.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Jamie, how about you?
I don't have any comments right now, no.
Okay. Well, this committee's not committing to anything right now, but how do you generally feel about us moving forward with some work around these 3 recommendations? This would be me and my team taking a look at these 3 and coming back with some more solid recommendations. Basically, you're making a recommendation for us to spend time on these 3 issues. Give me a sort of a thumbs up, down, or a sideways. If I can't see you, that's going to be interesting. There you go. Ricardo, using the digital tool. Well done. Okay. Bobby
So
Jr.
I can reach out and touch on Mike's concern with the Unity. It is a concern for sure. The problem with that facility is that it is a manufactured home park and they have different regulations legislatively,
Oh,
and they are able to do a lot of what they did. There were some things they did after the fact that probably weren't in the transparent, but yeah, the city's hands were fairly tied in what they were doing out there because of the legislative with the ADUs and the housing issues in Oregon and the mandate from the governor. They made it pretty lax of what you can do with these manufactured home parks. So we were a little bit hamstrung on that, just to bring that to attention. So
okay. Well, I'm not seeing any thumbs down. So I think what we'll do is we'll spend a little time over the next month digging into this and come back with some more specifics for you all. Sound okay? Okay.
and then I
All right.
meanwhile you and I will discuss on our situation with the asset management tools and citizen service, see where we want to
Yeah,
explore.
I'd appreciate that, Junior. Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 2 is the tax reimbursement proposal. So as a reminder, this is really driven by a developer called Cobalt, who is hoping to build 240 apartment units in Boardman. They found a model from Hermiston that essentially is a development incentive for housing developers in Hermiston. The way it works is that the developer or the owner of the development pays their taxes like normal through the county, proves they paid them, and then the city gives them a reimbursement for some percentage of the taxes for some number of years. So it's not money out of the housing fund, it's not money out of the general fund. It's literally the taxes that the developer or the owner of the new thing would be paying, and then you give them some of it back. And the reason that Hermiston chose to do this was because it created a gap financing tool for the developers who otherwise would not build whatever they were proposing to build. So the site in question for Cobalt is empty. It's paying de minimis taxes right now. So even if they're only getting a portion of the taxes over time, you're still coming out ahead as a city. You now have new housing you did not have. You have new taxes you did not have, and you didn't pay any money out of your city coffers to get it. That's the purpose. So what we did was we brought this first to the housing committee at your last meeting, and then you all, particularly Junior and Karen, said, "Hey, we don't like it when these things show up at city council without having had a preview about it first and time to think about it." So we took this to the city council at their last meeting and said, "Hey, heads up, The housing committee is thinking about it and looking through it. And they will then come back at your August meeting with a recommendation on whether we think this should go forward or not. So the way it works in Hermiston was they give a 100% tax reimbursement in years 1 and 2, then a 75% tax reimbursement in year 3, 50% year 4 and 5, and 25% in year 6. So after year 6, the development's paying 100% of the taxes they would have paid, but while it's being built or getting leased up, there's bigger relief on your taxes. Cobalt came back and said, hey, that's interesting. We like that, but we think it might make more sense for you as a city to just do a 25% tax reimbursement for 10 years. 10 years is a long time. Now, the other thing to think about is that you can more or less do whatever you want because this is just city taxes. We're not talking about county. We're not talking about other taxing bodies. You're really just talking about the city taxes. The second thing to think about is that we don't think, the Missing Middle Housing Fund does not think it's good practice to do this on a development by development basis. We think you should make a proposal that would then be for all developments going forward. That's because we think that's more fair. That's because we think then the process couldn't get manipulated in the future for people who like or don't like a certain development. You have other processes in place to deal with that. This is really just about this tax reimbursement proposal as a tool in your toolkit. So it would be something that each developer could apply for, and it's dealt with as is each time. The third thing to think about is that Brandon came back and said, hey, why would we do this just for housing? Could we do a similar process for commercial development as well? And you could. It doesn't just have to be for housing. So I want to take a step back and check in that the city councilors on this call at least seemed interested in this as a development tool because it doesn't cost the city any new money. It's money that doesn't exist until the thing is built. And I want to take a step back and re-ask, how do folks feel about this as a general principle? We can get into the details in a minute, but as a general principle, how do you feel about this type of a development tool? Any committee member can go.
Well, this is Karen, and I think it's a useful tool. I think that if we want to, I think that I don't know about how you do it, if you want to do it for 10 years and that part, but I think the part about giving them some kind of a tax break. I did ask you at the city council meeting, and I know that probably doesn't have anything to do with Boardman, but it does have something to do with the developer, because if he pays his total taxes, then he can write them off of his income tax. Then he only has to declare however much the city reimburses him for. And so I guess I'm trying to figure out in my mind, is this, so say he builds 50 apartments in the beginning. And so that year we give him 100% of his taxes off. And then he waits a year or two before he builds another 50. So how does that work in that? How much you give him as a reimbursement?
Well,
about later.
Right. So typically what you would do is you would just do it by parcel, right? So if it's one single parcel, the clock starts as soon as he takes ownership, right?
Okay.
And so if it's like multiple phases across one parcel, he's still getting the tax bill based on assessed value. So his tax bill is going to go up as he builds more stuff, right?
Right.
But the reimbursement doesn't have to be reset to 100. I believe it's actually cleaner if you actually do what Cobalt's suggesting and do a 25% tax reimbursement just each year. It's just much cleaner. I would not do it for 10 years. I think that's too long. 5 or 6 might be the right number in my opinion, maybe 5. But it's cleaner if you just say it's a 25% tax reimbursement on city taxes you pay, which are then going to be whatever the assessed value of whatever they build is. It's simple. It also enables the city to capture 75% of your taxes, which might be important if you're building like in the urban renewal district, for instance, and you still want to use tax increment financing, or maybe you're using the MERL, the Moderate Income Revolving Loan Fund from the state. Those are reliant upon taxes getting paid back. So like there's other reasons to not do 100% or 75. There's other reasons to kind of keep it clean and consistent across a number of years, in my opinion, Karen.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll jump in. So we have a development that's here in the city that has several phases, and they've gotten through phase 2 and starting on phase 3, but it's kind of stalled out because nobody seems to want to purchase the condominiums as much as living in the apartments. So if this started, and they've already started building and it's already been a development that's been in process, would they be able to, was that something they would be able to join in on moving forward with the phases is my first question. And then my second question would be, what about single family dwellings?
So these
Is
are
this
great
just for
questions.
apartments?
So the first question, I don't know. I guess we would get to decide. Could they use that tool midway through a project if the program started January 1, 2027, and their project started 5 years ago, could they use the tool on a go forward basis? I think the answer is kind of yes, because it would be on housing not yet built, right? That's how I would do it. Like housing not yet built, you get the incentive, but I think we get to decide. I think we get to decide that, or at least make a recommendation. But that's a really cool thing to think about. And then the other one was just single family homes. Sure, why not?
If
If it's a new build, wouldn't it count? Like if you're adding a unit to the city of Boardman, I think that's the whole point, right, of this advisory committee is like increasing the housing stock in Boardman in thoughtful ways. And if you're only doing it a single house at a time, why not? Like, I'm curious what other people think about that.
Well, and the reason I ask that is it could be some equitable issues with that because there's people who bought the houses before that didn't get that
Sure.
tax break. So that's where my concern is, like a development like Chaparral or because that hasn't happened yet. But you're looking at the River Ridge area out there where there's houses that have already been built and sold. There's some houses that have not sold yet that have been built, and there's lots of new builds that are still going forward. So is that fair to everybody if some people got it and some people did not?
That's a good question, how we would look back.
That's why I had concerns with it.
Yep. What other thoughts or maybe comments on what Karen and Junior have already said?
Would the idea be that from this date forward, these tax incentives exist for new builds?
Yes, you would take an act of your city council, and then your city council
Right,
would,
but
would decide, yes.
say it did move forward and Junior, is that what you're getting at, that the people prior to this wouldn't be able to access these funds?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you had a house on River Ridge, right? And the guy next door to you or across the road gets a house and he gets this tax reimbursement. You're like, well, I didn't get that. Right. That's my concern.
Right. Yeah. And does the tax reimbursement I guess it would have to go to the homeowner who didn't actually go build the house. So that's something to think about for commercial properties and for rentals. Typically, the owner or a refinancier owns it on a go-forward basis, so it's real easy to follow the cash flow. That's different than a for sale house built on spec. So, Junior, this is a really good question.
Yeah, is it for new built homes?
Right. That's theoretically.
Is it for the developer or for the homeowner? I guess would be
Right.
the question, right?
Right.
Does the developer, when he builds a house and it hasn't sold yet, he has to pay the property tax, or that company has to pay the property tax?
Right.
So
But
is
who
it
would,
just for the developer, or is it for
yeah.
the single housing dweller?
Because let's play devil's advocate for a minute. If if the point of this is to get more things built, right? It's an incentive. But you're going to sell the thing you built within 6 months. You don't care about paying taxes. Not really. It might help you sell the house because it's coming with a sweeter deal on your taxes, but it doesn't actually help you build the house. Not really. It does if you're renting those properties or you're, renting on a commercial basis. So this is a good question, Junior.
Well, and my second concern is that, we're really focusing, I believe, as this committee, we're focusing on houses that are for sale, not for rent, is our ultimate goal. We want to make housing affordable for people to buy.
Yeah, I
So
mean, you're charged with all of it, but that has been a preference of
yeah,
this committee.
from the committee, and I'm not saying that's my personal opinion. I just from the
Yeah,
committee's standpoint, So
right.
those are questions that I have about how this works.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we're going to get to the bottom of are homeowners included yet? And if they are, do we have a, do we have any kind of a backwards look for houses built in some period of time in the past, right? Okay. Other thoughts?
Um, this is Mike. I just got to throw in. I don't have a thought about this, but I'm gonna have to hop off at 11 for a fire defense board meeting, unfortunately.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Just FYI, if I pop off at 11, that's why I'm gone.
Okay. Um, Ricardo or Jamie, we haven't heard from you guys yet.
I don't really have any additional point. I think great points were being made, and I'm just kind of just taking it all in and just kind of trying to figure it out. But yeah, some clarification on if this is for everybody, just commercial. I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
Kind of next to kind of forward this conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to agree with Ricardo because I mean the whole idea is to get more houses built. So that's what the incentive is for. So I would think it would be stuff moving forward and not be a backwards thing. But that's just my
Hmm.
I it's just to get more built.
Right. Well, let me suggest something. Um, the way that Hermiston does it is a little bit complex, and they do it that way for a reason. The developer in your city who brought this forward wanted something less complex, right? Just simple, easy, 25% tax reimbursement for 10 years. We've heard from several of you, as well as several of your staff, that 10 years feels too long. If we propose something like this, 5 years, uh, possible for commercial and residential, undecided to research uh, houses for sale, and uh, do we consider homes sold in recent past as a sort of a thing to go look at. How do folks feel about these two? If we started here, 25% tax reimbursement on city taxes for 5 years instead of 10. And it can be used on commercial and residential. Basically all development. I should make that clear. All development.
Yeah,
Just these two, without solving the thing down here. How do folks feel about those two?
I like that as a starting point.
Yeah.
This is Karen. I'm agree with that part. I
Okay.
think it's important.
Junior, Bobby.
Oh, I gave my thumbs up. It must have already flown by.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
like it. I like it.
Mike, thank you. Bobby, how you feeling about that as a starting point?
Yeah, I don't think Boardman, unless I'm wrong, has problems selling homes or people buying homes. I think the problem is getting them built. So for the developer, I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Well, let's start here. The next, I think, council meeting is August 4th. Is that right?
Yes.
Correct.
So at least what we can do is we can bring this piece forward to the council. And in the meantime, I can research this and come up with a proposal, and we can run it by you guys via email ahead of the council meeting just for input. And then what we would do is we would bring forward this to your city council for the August 4th meeting as a recommendation from the Housing Advisory Committee. We would bring this up and say, this is a thing that we're grappling with. Here's what we think you should do, but you should know we're grappling with this. And then put it in council's hands. How do folks
Nathan,
feel about that?
real quick, do you think Hermiston has it set up the way they do for developers and purchasers? So a developer's only going to hold on to it for so long. That's why they get such a tax incentive. And then the buyer, do you think it transfers over to the buyer?
So what I don't know the answer to is whether they're doing that for single family homes. I don't know. What I do
Okay.
know is that it's structured as this descending reimbursement because typically the financing at the beginning is the hardest. There's no guarantee that like they're going to have full lease up. Like if you're building a rental product or a commercial product and you build 100,000 square feet, you might only fill 60,000 square
Right.
feet in years 1 and 2, and so you have this big tax bill, but you're not generating as much income. That's why it's structured like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so we could choose to do like a 50% thing in year one and then 25% every year after that if we wanted. To make it look sort of closer to Hermiston, but still really easy to understand. Like I'll just write it so you sort of see that. It
Be
would be like,
curious to talk to someone at City of Hermiston and get their input on why it's structured like that.
well, I did talk to them, and that's
Oh,
why it's structured like that. The part I
okay.
don't know is if it's for um, I don't know if it's for single family homes. I don't know that part. So it would be sort of like this. So you'd get a bigger bump in year one, and then you'd get a lower bump for 4 years. I don't know. Do
And then that
people
would
like that better? Do we care?
transfer over to the buyer.
I think it would, yes. And well, I don't know. That's a good question, Bobby, because maybe
Yeah.
if there's a transaction, it does not.
Right. It's a weird.
Well, this is Karen, but I don't understand how you would go back to a home that is sold
Right.
and say, "Oh, we're going to give you a tax break now that you've bought your house."
Right.
That seems. Then, besides that, BCDA has already given them $5,000 if this is their first house in our community. So we would have to think about that.
Well, So here's an interesting thing. So, I mean, I think we should research it, but we could say something like if there's a transaction, if the builder sells the asset, right, and it becomes a single family home, this tax reimbursement doesn't occur. We could say that.
That it terminates on sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
because we're trying to get them to build.
Yeah.
right,
Then the
right,
next process is trying to get them to buy.
right.
Is our job to do both, or is it just to get them to build?
It's a good
I think we're
question. I don't,
our issues here. Because everybody would like, I would love to buy a new house and not have to pay my property taxes for the first
yeah,
year.
right, right. Or pay less because this is
Yeah,
a 25%, right?
yeah.
Okay, well, I didn't hear that much enthusiasm for this part, so I'm just going to go back to the other one. But this piece we have to get to the bottom of. So, in the interest of time, can we feel confident about moving forward with these two? And then over the next 2 weeks, we'll research this and bring it to city council?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. That's what we're going to do. And now we're going to, Mike, I know you only got 7 minutes, but we're going to turn it over to Gary Reddick and we're going to talk about the Columbia View uh, master plan that we've been working on for a couple months with this committee. And Gary, so maybe we've got about 23 more minutes in our
Right.
meeting.
Yeah.
It'd be helpful, I think, if you give a bit of an overview on what we're up to, and
Yeah.
then we can get into yeah.
Okay, just for
So,
quickly before sorry to interrupt you. This is you presented this at city council last week, right?
We did.
Yeah.
so I asked Nate to start here, even though we're going to focus 98% of the rest of my time on the land between 4th Street and Olson uh, Road. But I wanted to remind everybody that, we've got sort of two endeavors here. And I pulled up the reminder that I have pinned down in my office, and I wanted to read it again, which is our chief goal is to get a variety of housing types built, but in such a way that it makes a new, vibrant center of Boardman that will attract new retail, new shopping, and attract place for people to come and gather. And so previously, I've been leaving that area on the screen to the right, the area between 4th and Olson, kind of undefined, though it suggests a plaza. And I know I've been showing an amphitheater, but today is when we bring out uh, more of that specifically for your comment. So it's a good time to shift to the next image, Nate. There we go. So what this is a zoom in on the eastern part that shows 4th and Olson and shows the first two housing buildings and the continuation of the public plaza. And I want to try to explain here um, uh, what you're looking at. When I first drove by um, Olson Road with Ryan Olson last summer, and he was working on the plan to present to all of you at the potential purchase. And we drove around, and I got to Olson Road, and I was looking out in general over the Columbia View property, and it seemed, relatively level. And then the closer you got to it, particularly at the midpoint of Olson, you see that there was a 10 or 12-foot drop. And I've been back a few times to tromp around all that site and do some of my own recording of elevations. And and I understand it a lot better. The center part of the site is the lowest. It actually slopes from Front Street into the center. It slopes from Boardman Avenue into the center. And then because Olson Road is up at the highest elevation, it drops off about 10 or 12 feet. And so rather than seeing that as a problem that couldn't be overcome, I thought really it was a magnificent opportunity to build an upper level that would house all of the new retail that you're starting to see here in colored blocks. I'm not showing architecture today. I'm showing the representation of retail activity, both big and small, how it might park, and that there is a parking garage.
What's going on, my man?
Parking.
How much do you want for your car? Oh, I probably what did I bought it from you for what, 15 grand?
We got Mike, I think
So
Hey, Mike.
we're hearing your car negotiation.
Oh, sorry, dude.
5,000.
Yeah, 5,000. What the hell's going on with this thing?
And that
One of my guys, I'm gonna pop off. One of my guys' cars just broke down, so let me talk to him. Sorry, guys. I apologize.
okay.
All right.
So the focus really here is Fourth Avenue to the east. And at the base level of Fourth Avenue, that when the paving is all done, is going to put it about 10 feet lower than Olson. So these are really important data points because it's not like we could have raised the center of the site to be closer to Olson. The road is following the natural slope. So what I'm showing here is that there are two access points underneath that new retail platform that houses approximately 100 cars. And then from that upper level, there you go, upper level, a really wonderful amphitheater that comes down into the public plaza. There's so many activities that could happen with the amphitheater, include of pulling up a big screen at night and having, cinema night once a week during the summer. But tucked back underneath that platform, and I think there's an image that Nate can bring up later to show you. There it is. I want to show you how this comes about. We build a retaining wall back up against Olson at an elevation that's now about 2 feet lower than it currently is, to an elevation of 294. That puts it 2 feet lower than 4th Street, an easy ramp for those two aisles coming down on each side. And we build a 3-sided retaining wall that then fills in the property on each side. And a lot of that fill is already done. So you're only filling 3 or 4 feet to get it up to the 306 level. So we're creating kind of a daylight basement effect for the parking garage. And I'm showing about 100 cars there. The yellow square that you see there is where the stair would come down, and if the economics would prove adequate, that would be where it would be really wonderful to put an elevator. Nate, if we could come back to the previous, there you go. So I'm really excited about a kind of tower there that's the footprint of the elevator, but perhaps people can go up another level or two in it and look out. Maybe it's a clock tower, maybe it's a bell tower. It starts to harken back to what happens in villages and their public square, and that's where a tower shape usually happens. So I don't want you to be thinking that the colored blocks that I've put on there are necessarily architecture. I am introducing the idea of color. Not that the whole building would be painted this way, but I want it to be an exciting, vibrant place to people walk around in, come and hang out in, whether they need to shop or not. And this is a view looking kind of down Olson, and you can see that I've provided some convenience parking along Olson. My first thought was not to put additional parking up on that platform or that podium and have it all be down below and cause all the shoppers to walk up a full flight of stairs. I've, I've done a ton of retail over the years, and I know that for a lot of retail to work, some of the retailing is going to require short-term convenience parking. So that's what I'm showing back up at the upper level, and still rely on a lot of the parking down below in the parking
Gary, can I
garage.
interject for a moment?
Yeah.
So what our illustrious committee doesn't know is that I've helped reorganize the parking systems of two cities. And the most convenient parking is the parking that's taken first, no matter what. And this would be the most convenient parking. So typically on every main street in America, do you know who gets in those spots and sits there all day? Unless you charge for them, it's the employees. And so what a lot of cities do is they work with their employees to say, thou shalt not park in the princess parking right out front. You need to park in the garage. Because at any given moment, if this is a successful retail experience, you could have up to 50 or 60 folks working in those different retail establishments, especially if you have a restaurant. That's a lot of folks moving, right? Um, so that's just something to think about is that you will have employees that need a place to park. And typically you want them to park in the less desirable parking so that your customers can have the best spots.
That's a great point, Nate. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So here we have several kind of move around the site, looking at it from different angles. This gives you a really good idea of how the upper level works, and you walk down on the amphitheater, all kinds of activities happening there. It shows the tuck under parking down below. And on these spaces beside the amphitheater and in the space in the lower left corner, those can be temporary retail activities or food carts or even more permanent buildings. I've kind of left that undeveloped, but and I really want you to understand that this scheme that I'm showing in color is probably one of 10 ways that I could lay out that retail platform. It may be that the retailers that are eventually attracted to be here don't want to have it fractured into individual buildings like that. They may want it to be a grouping of bigger buildings. I thought it was really important that the space could provide for that. I'm particularly charmed by having the pieces up on top be more something that people strolled around and it felt like a village, but that's just my own inclination.
And Gary, can I remind everybody that you could have bollards right here, that when you're having different festival events, you shut down this middle part of 4th Street, and that maybe it has the same texture as the landing pad here or the plaza over here. It's the same material so that it feels as though it's one continuous plaza and you can still get in and out of the parking when you shut down this part right here for different events.
I'm really glad you brought that up. I was actually going to cover that area with the same brown cardboard, but I thought it might be overly confusing at this point. But if when that plaza is ready to be constructed, if we could connect the paving on both sides to have it feel like one plaza, and that's a fabulous place for a Saturday market, for a car show, for a big food festival, barbecue, chili cook-off. This becomes a really kind of highly active something that an organization will probably spring up to be in charge of activating the public square every week or every other week. But this is I like this shot a lot because it's kind of including everything from a different angle. On the left-hand side, Olson Road is going along. You can see where it pulls off into convenience parking. you can see also on Boardman Avenue in the lower part of this, there's additional convenience parking at that upper level. Now, if that's not necessary, there's a wonderful opportunity for that being let's say a restaurant that then sticks out and connects down to the lowest level. So perhaps their bar and cafe part is on the lowest level, and the second story is more of a sit-down restaurant. I'm anxious to be able to show that in future layouts.
Gary, do we want to pause and see what kind of thoughts or
Yeah.
feedback we have from the committee?
I think it'll look pretty good from the highway.
I do too.
And I just wanted to jump in and let everybody know that 4th Street is paved all the way up to where this plaza is at. It just hasn't been completed at the Sage Center parking is all.
That's great news, Junior.
Yep.
Things are rocking and rolling.
Boardman Avenue is complete. 4th Avenue is 99% complete. 3rd Avenue is complete, and the alley is complete.
Junior, I was really surprised when I was there a couple of weeks ago to see how much of the paving was done. I couldn't believe how quickly you guys got after that.
Yep, no, they're making good progress, and as of today, they are all open, and Front Street is no longer there as far as asphalt goes. The asphalt has been completely removed from 4th Avenue all the way to Main Street.
That's great.
So you made a good comment about this potentially being attractive from the freeway, as the Sage Center is. And so I've said all along that I think you have some really attractive assets along Olson, Sage, the daycare center, the swim center and rec center. And this is sort of the complement across the street. And so what I'm trying to build here is a sense of place. And I want to be around to overhear somebody say in a few years, wow, have you been to Boardman lately? Have you seen what they've done with their starting of their new urban retail area? And there's an amphitheater there, and it's incredible to walk around in. That's what I'm hoping to be a part of.
Other thoughts, comments?
This is Karen. I would think too that, there's going to be a new hotel on Front Street. And I would think that people because it's more for long-term stay, that this should be really exciting to them to have a short distance to walk to, get out and stretch your legs and enjoy something in that plaza.
Thanks, Karen. Ricardo, Jamie.
I'm sorry, but my other thought would be too, if we're having conventions at the Sage Center, this is also a really positive thing for that area. That, when you have an evening that you have to eat on your own or whatever, that you could go there and have a really enjoyable evening.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, Ricardo, I see your mic's off.
Yeah.
On.
I just think right now it looks like a great concept. I think it's something very attainable that could be very attractive, especially from the freeway, just looking on and just seeing that. I'm excited to kind of see, because obviously we don't know what other retail businesses are going to go there just yet, but I think we can get the flow just right, and it could be something really nice and beautiful for Boardman.
Thanks, Ricardo. Give that love to Gary. This is all Gary. This is the Gary Reddick show right here. Jamie?
I think it's a great concept. Do we have people already coming into these? I mean, I guess
No, this is
okay.
too early. This is
too early. Okay.
Well, it's the first time any of you have seen it. So
Right. I'm just trying to.
Yeah. So it's part of our purpose in doing this is to show you the concepts as this evolves. So Gary, like, not to put Gary on the spot, but he's had a lot of this in his head for a while based on his conversations with you. And he continues to refine and massage this idea based on the feedback you're giving him and really wants to make it understandable, right? Because this two-story thing from Olson down to the rest of the site has been hard to sort of explain and figure out how it would work. And so what I think Gary's trying to do today is really try to start to make it more real. And as this committee gets comfortable with all the elements of this master plan, we start to lock in pieces of it and start to do the economic analysis and the phasing plan, right? Like what would come first and why, based on the economics and the market forces. And we're only, I think, 2 months away from being close to done. And when that happens, then we would take that to your city council for adoption. And then it's off to the races, try to get it built.
Nate,
Does that
let me add one final thing here, because even this shot to me looks a little stark. The piece with the number 3 on it is part of the public plaza that extends all the way from the amphitheater. In actual fact, there probably would be food carts on both sides of that. There would be dense landscaping and trees on each side between the plaza and those colored elements. There's no landscaping or greenery or lushness showing yet. So
got a ways to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's the end. So come back to the beginning, right? This is where we started. And we've had a lot of feedback that from a phasing standpoint, it would make sense to start at your residential strength, which is to your west along 3rd and Boardman, and start with the home ownership pieces first and bring it down, and then start to fill in some senior housing in here as we start to build the central commons. This whole amphitheater and parking structure and retaining wall, that's going to be your big ticket item that's going to require some public support, some public funding. So you want to be able to start to build your tax base with the other stuff first, which can then be part of your urban renewal tool potentially, if you wanted it to be, to actually start to help build the public infrastructure. But again, our purpose here is to just keep feeding you concepts and ideas and get your feedback, which helps us then refine the plan before we would take it to a city council for adoption. Other thoughts, comments?
But do we have more? Oh, sorry, Karen.
Have you talked to Mr. Hammond about where he thinks we're starting?
Yes, a lot of different times. So he's brought into this every iteration, and he sort of agrees and concurs that the places to start are really on this edge with the home ownership piece. Number one, it's a big priority for this committee. Number two, the bulk of the infrastructure, as you just heard from Junior, is going to be done. Number three, it just can, you don't want to build something alone that's surrounded by nothing. You generally want to work from your strong edges in. And right now, your strongest edge is this 3rd Street edge because you have existing housing already there. So yes, we've talked to him a lot about that, Karen.
Okay, because that's what I'm getting from him. So,
Yeah.
okay, just want to make sure everybody's included.
Thank you. Jamie, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, this is coming from Michael, but he says these drawings are pretty basic. So he goes, I could do these drawings. So he didn't really like the drawings that came from Michael. Um, and then on the housings, do we have like actual like what we're doing in each area? Because I know that this is what this committee is about. So do we have that plan ready yet?
So what we've been doing is we've been showing concept images. So
Mhm.
it might take me a second, but I can show you those concept images. So we did basically, here's what it would look like on Boardman Avenue. Here's what it would look like in the cottage cluster. We went over that at the last meeting, so I can show you some of those again. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's harder for me because I'm coming in and out of meetings covering for Michael, so I don't know everything. So
right, right. But well, let's hear from someone else while I find that, and then we're going to have to close down here in a second. Any other thoughts, comments? Okay, I will show you this. This will be the last thing then. Okay. So Jamie, this was an example of what could be on Boardman Avenue, this sort of style of townhouse. So right here,
okay,
and that would be for sale. And then for our cottage cluster concept, something like this. Lots of different types of units surrounding a central green, something like that. These are meant to be concept images, not prescriptive.
right.
And then for the Central Plaza, we had shown some of these too. Making sense?
Yep.
And you can tell Michael that we'll have him draw it next time.
Okay. Sometimes I hate speaking for him.
It's all right. Okay. Well, on that note, we're out of time, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. But if you do have more feedback or you have more things you want us to know now that you've seen these images, I'll send these around after the meeting. Please reach out to me or Gary. You can do that email or phone because our objective is to just keep getting your thoughts and comments. And if it comes to you in 2 days at the middle of the night, don't call us then. But the next day, be sure to give us a call.
And I just want to give a quick update. So, looks like the motel is under construction. They're breaking ground on the motel. And Front Street looks like it should be paved and striped by the end of September.
This is great.
So,
Thank you,
Way
Jamie.
ahead of schedule.
no, we don't say that. That's
I could say that.
okay.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. I really appreciate your input. Hi, Amanda. Saw you up. She's gone. Um,
I always really appreciate being in front of you. So I look forward to the next time.
okay. Thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Right.
See
Bye.
you.